You've survived every hard thing alone. You didn't fall apart. You didn't ask for help. You figured it out, quietly, by yourself. And somehow, that strength has become its own kind of prison. There's a particular kind of person who reaches out, but only once. If the call goes unanswered, they don't call again. If no one notices the silence, they go deeper into it. Not because they don't need anything, but because somewhere along the way they learned something dangerous. That needing things from people is a vulnerability you can't afford. Psychologists have a name for this pattern. It's called dismissive-avoidant attachment, one of the 4 attachment styles first mapped by psychiatrist John Bowlby in the 1960s. Here's what it means in plain language. When you were younger, the people you reached out to perhaps couldn't respond, perhaps weren't there, perhaps were there but responded in ways that felt unpredictable. So your nervous system did what nervous systems do. It adapted. It learned wanting plus asking equals pain. So it stopped wanting openly. It stopped asking at all. What happened neurologically is fascinating and worth understanding. The brain restructured its emotional processing. The amygdala, your threat detection center, began associating emotional need with danger. So anytime you felt yourself leaning on someone, that same system activated. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly. A tightening, a sudden urge to pull back. A voice that said, "Handle it yourself." And every time you did handle it yourself, the neural pathway strengthened. Like a trail through a forest. The more you walk it, the more it becomes the only path you can find. Here's what no one told you about this pattern. Your emotional independence is not a flaw. It is evidence of intelligence, evidence of survival. When the environment was unreliable, you became the reliable one. When there was no safety net, you became the safety net. That is not weakness dressed up as strength. That is a genuinely remarkable feat of adaptation. But adaptation and fulfillment are not the same thing. Evolutionary biologist Robert Trivers observed that many of our survival strategies outlive the environments that created them. You learned to be self-sufficient in a world that required it, but you are likely no longer in that world. And yet, the pattern runs. The strategy that once protected you is now the wall that keeps out the very things you quietly want most. Connection, rest, the relief of being known. Let's go deeper into what's actually happening inside the emotionally independent person. Neuroscientist Stephen Porges developed something called polyvagal theory. In simple terms, your nervous system operates in 3 states: safety, fight or flight, shutdown. The emotionally independent person rarely reaches full safety. They've learned to function from a kind of managed tension, always slightly alert, always slightly ready for the connection to fail. Psychologist Bessel van der Kolk described it this way: the body keeps score. Even when the mind has rationalized the distance, the body still holds the original wound, which is why you can have every logical reason to accept help and still feel deeply uncomfortable when someone offers it. The discomfort isn't irrational, it's old. It's the body remembering what the mind has chosen to forget. There's another mechanism worth naming: alexithymia, the reduced ability to identify and describe one's own emotional states. Research shows that people with avoidant attachment patterns often score higher on alexithymia measures, not because they feel less. Neuroscience suggests they may actually feel more, but the emotional processing gets rerouted before it reaches language, before it reaches consciousness, before it can become a need that would require someone else. So the feelings don't disappear. They go quiet. They become physical tension. They become distance. They become that low, unnamed exhaustion that arrives without explanation. So what do you actually do with this? Not fix, not force, but understand, and then, gently, shift. Here are 5 principles, each grounded in what psychology actually shows works. The first principle: name the pattern before you change it. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." The first step is not behavioral, it is awareness. When you feel the pull to withdraw, when someone offers help and you feel a quiet refusal rising, don't suppress it, name it. This is the pattern. That single act of naming engages your prefrontal cortex and interrupts the automatic response. You are not fixing anything, you are simply turning on the light. The second principle: practice micro-vulnerability. Researcher Brené Brown's work on vulnerability and shame consistently shows one thing: connection does not require dramatic disclosure. It requires small, consistent acts of letting someone in. Not your deepest wound. Start simpler, saying, "I've been tired lately," to someone you trust, letting a friend choose the restaurant, accepting help with something minor without minimizing it immediately after. The nervous system learns through repeated safe experiences. Small ones still count. The third principle: distinguish strength from rigidity. True emotional resilience is not the inability to need. In clinical psychology, resilience is defined as the capacity to bend and return, not the capacity to feel nothing. A person who never needs support is not strong. They are rigid. And rigid things, under enough pressure, don't bend, they break. Allowing yourself to receive is not the opposite of strength, it is strength. The fourth principle: regulate before you reach out. One reason emotionally independent people struggle to ask for help is that they reach out from desperation, or not at all. Psychologist Marsha Linehan, the creator of dialectical behavior therapy, identified something important. We connect from a regulated state. Before reaching out, try even 2 minutes of slow, deliberate breathing, 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. This activates your parasympathetic nervous system. It tells your amygdala you are not in danger. And from that place, connection becomes possible rather than threatening. The fifth principle: let relationships be evidence. Your nervous system will keep predicting that people will fail you. The only way to update a prediction is with new data. This is called memory reconsolidation in neuroscience. Old emotional memories can be updated when new experience interrupts the expected pattern, which means every time someone shows up for you and you let yourself notice, really notice, the nervous system updates. Not immediately, not completely, but slowly, the trail through the forest begins to shift. Here is the simple mental model for everything we've covered. Imagine your emotional independence as a fortress. It was built for a reason. It kept you safe. But a fortress is only useful during a war. In peace, it becomes isolation. The work is not to demolish the walls. The work is to build a gate, one that you control, one that you can open slowly, selectively, on your own terms. Not because you have to, but because you finally understand that letting people in is not a risk you failed to protect against. It is the thing you were always trying to get to. You became self-sufficient because it was necessary. You carried what you carried because no one else would, and you did it well. But carrying alone for long enough becomes its own kind of loneliness. Not the kind you can fix with company, the kind that comes from never truly being received, seen, held, known. You don't need to become a different person. You don't need to become someone who needs loudly, or leans heavily, or collapses into another. You just need to become someone who can, occasionally, put something down and trust that the floor will hold. It might, more often than you think.